I can't you. I can't hear you, teacher.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Thank you for telling me, though. So let me repeat what I just said. Welcome, everyone, to the class. Today we are going to be talking about food processing and this new type of generating food in a lab. Okay, so if you'll see in the description, there we're talking about a hamburger that costs $350,000 to produce. Okay, so yes, it is an alternative to traditional meat. You having to grow the cows and maintain the field and things like this. But for $350,000, maybe it's not worth the price. Okay, so we'll look at the article, learn a little bit more about this process, the future of the food that we eat as we know it. Maybe it'll change, maybe not, but we'll give our opinions and see what you think. Okay, so let's see who we have. Ali, welcome. How are you?
Fine, thanks. And you, teacher?
Great, great. Thank you so much for letting me know that my microphone wasn't working. Oh no, we lost Ali. Hopefully he'll come back. Okay, let's see. We have Ermilo. Welcome. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Great. Nice to see you today. Tell us where you're from, Ermilo.
Pardon me?
Tell us where you're from.
I'm from Coatzacoalcos, Veracruz, Mexico.
Okay, excellent. Welcome to the class.
Thank you.
Let me go back to Ali. Are you there, Ali?
Hi again. I made a mistake. Closed the page.
Oh, no problem, no problem. But welcome back. I'm glad you could come back. Tell us where you're from, Ali.
I'm from Turkey, and I'm elementary level in English.
Okay, I don't think so. You sound very good.
Yes, yes.
Okay, excellent. So welcome to the class. We have Igor. Welcome again, Igor.
Yes, hi again.
Nice to see you. And tell us where you're from.
But do you know where you're from?
Moldova?
Yeah.
I remember.
You remember.
Yes, I'm just asking so that you can introduce yourself. But don't worry, I remember.
Yeah, but do you know where is this country located?
More or less. More or less. Tell us where it is, because I'm going to say it wrong.
It's near Ukraine. Do you know Ukraine where it is? So
Right.
Russia, after that Ukraine, and near Ukraine, between Romania and Ukraine.
Okay, excellent. Is that small?
Yeah, it's very small. Was many years ago was a part of Romania.
Okay, very good, very good. Nice to have you again. Thank you for that. Okay, let's see. We also have Sam. How are you?
Hi, I'm fine, thank you.
Great, nice to see you. And where are you from, Sam?
I'm talking from Spain.
From Spain?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And in what part of Spain do you live?
Valencia.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So again, we're talking about this hamburger that costs $350,000, but not just the burger, we're talking about the general idea of making food and specifically meat in a lab. Okay, so throughout the article, feel free to express your opinions and of course ask any questions if you see vocab words that you're not sure about. Any questions that you do have, feel free to ask, okay? So again, underneath the class in the description, you can see the article, but I'm going to go ahead and put it up on the screen as well, okay? And of course, I will put it in the chat. So if you want to access it there, you can, okay? If you're following along on my screen, just click on my screen at the bottom, and it should stay up for you so you can read it on the screen. Okay, we'll take turns reading different sections, and after you finish reading, I'll tell you if you made any pronunciation mistakes, and then we'll kind of discuss if there are any questions, vocab questions, and any opinions you'd like to give. Okay, so let me scroll down here, and I'll ask Ali, would you read us the title of this article and the subtitle?
Okay. The world's first test tube hamburger costs $325,000 will be eaten in London. Will this be the first bite of a feature in which we all eat meat grown in labs?
Okay, excellent, excellent. No pronunciation problems there. Any questions before we move on? This is just the title. So we're just getting an idea of what we're going to be talking about, and then we'll continue on this topic. And I just realized I put 350,000, but it's really 325,000. But that's okay. Okay. One thing I wanted to look at was this phrase right here. It says a test tube hamburger. Does anybody know what that means? What is a test tube hamburger?
Where they test hamburgers.
Not really how they test them.
No, I think it's how they grow them.
Right, exactly. How they grow them. Okay, so what is a test tube?
It's like a cup that is specialized, that is used only in labs.
Right, exactly. So it's like the special cup or the special tube that they use only in labs. So to say a test tube hamburger is exactly as Sam said, it's how they grow them. They're growing them in these test tubes or in lab situations. Okay, so of course the normal way to make a hamburger, you have a cow and you slaughter the cow and get the meat. This way is different. They're making the meat in a lab.
Sorry, what do you do with a cow?
To slaughter it?
Yeah, could you write this word down?
Sure, sure. Let me type it. Okay, to slaughter. To slaughter. And Sam, you said also to butcher. Okay, both of those you can say, meaning to kill an animal for meat.
Okay.
Okay, so you could slaughter or butcher the cow. Okay, so again, this is instead of slaughtering or butchering the cow, you are making the meat in a lab. Okay, so they already have things like meat substitutes. This is not a meat substitute. This is actual meat that they are growing in a lab. Okay, so we've just read the title. What are your opinions right now? Would you eat this test tube hamburger?
No.
No.
I don't think I would either.
I do not eat so much meat, so I'm not interested. I do not eat meat.
I think it's a very artificial. It might have some health damage.
Yeah. Any other things, problems that you might see with this? So there might be some health problems. What else? Sam, you were going to say?
Will cost cheaper. for people.
Right, right. So this hamburger cost $325,000. That's not really reasonable. Nobody can
No,
afford it.
I mean in the future that after they will develop this when many in factory of these hamburgers, so will cost cheaper than cow's meat.
You think so? That in the future it'll actually be cheaper?
Yeah, I think they mean from this title the world's first test because it's first, and they invested money in research, I think, and they consider this money $325,000 in invested in research and all kind of these things to develop but not this material what they use there, but all technologies that they used, and the scientists they pay for this amount of money. But after this will ball rolling, or how we can say it. So
yeah. So maybe this initial amount of money got the ball rolling or got it started. And now they don't have to pay, $325,000 for each one because they've already completed the research.
No, this is for research, money for research. I think in text we will find that this money for all materials research and people who worked on this research. But why they did this research? To feed poor countries, I think, where they do not have enough meat, I think, for this.
Yeah, it could be. What else do you think? Just your initial opinions. Ali, what do you think?
It's expensive for a hamburger, and I can't say anything. Sorry.
That's okay. Your microphone is a little bit quiet. If you could just turn up your microphone a little bit, if that's possible. But yeah, it is a lot of money so far. But maybe, as Igor said, that was mostly for research. And Ermila, what do you think?
What can I say? I think the same thing. It is a very expensive hamburger because who is going to pay $325,000 for this?
Right.
Yeah.
What if it costs the normal price? What do you think then?
Well,
is it still a bad idea?
I do not know what is the normal cost in USA, but here we are talking about 50 pesos. It would be about maybe $5.
Right. So if we could somehow make the price lower, do you think that it would be worth going through this process? Or maybe is it still a little strange to eat this kind of lab-produced meat?
I think the flavor would be different. I don't know. I suppose that.
Okay, yeah, it might not taste the same. But let's go ahead and start with the article. We'll read a little bit more about it, and then we can see how our opinions might be affected. Okay, so let's start next with Ermila. Would you read the next paragraph for us?
On the traditional meat replacement creepiness scale, Testtube steak is somewhere near the top. It's definitely creepier than some of the realistic plant-based meat replacements, and more difficult to pull off.
Okay, excellent. Just one pronunciation correction. This should be plant-based.
Plant-based.
Okay, excellent. Everything else was great.
Okay, thank you.
So this is comparing another meat replacement, plant-based meat replacements. So we already have, like we were saying, different replacements for meat, but they're based on plants. So maybe things like soy or tofu, things like this. Meat replacements, but they're not really meat. They're based on plants. Okay, any questions from this section?
More difficult to pull off. What is the meaning?
Okay, excellent question. More difficult to pull off. To pull off means to be successful in something.
Okay.
So these plant-based meat replacements are available and they exist, but what they did in this article is more difficult to pull off or more difficult to do successfully than the plant-based meat replacements.
And it's definitely creepier. What is creepier?
Okay, creepier. This is kind of a strange word. Does anybody know what it means in this context to be creepier?
Creepier, less acceptable.
Right, something that's not acceptable or kind of weird and strange. Okay, so this kind of lab meat is kind of creepy, kind of weird and strange. Okay, or not acceptable. So maybe society thinks that lab meat is creepy and weird. Okay?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
It would be out of sense.
Can you say again?
Yes, creepier can be understood as something out of sense.
Out of sense?
Yeah.
What do you mean exactly by that?
Well, it is it's out of the normal.
Mm-hmm. Right, something that's out of the normal or out of the ordinary.
Out of the ordinary, right?
Mm-hmm.
I try to mean that.
Okay, perfect. Something out of the ordinary.
Yeah. Can
Okay.
we understood in this way?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Something creepy. It could be out of the ordinary. Something strange.
Something strange. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from that paragraph? Okay,
No.
let's look at the next one to learn a little bit more about this process. Igor, could you read it for us?
Yeah. How to first word? Nonetheless.
Nonetheless, right.
Nonetheless, a small group of dedicated scientists is working to ensure that your future hearty meat dinner comes from a lab instead of a cow. They have been successful enough that the first cultured hamburger, created from bits of test tube muscle tissue, will be shown off and eventually eaten at an upcoming event in London. The only catch, it cost $325,000 to produce.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Any questions here?
Here is written that a small group of dedicated scientists is working. So they research this area. I think for this money, $325,000 went.
Right, right. Okay, so maybe what you were thinking before, that a lot of this money is going to the scientists and going to the research. Okay.
Yeah, someone will be very rich.
Someone, I'm not sure who, if it's the scientists or the producers, who knows?
Yeah.
Okay.
All people involved with cow, no, not cow, artificial meat or.
Okay, yeah. Any other vocab questions in the paragraph? Everything else is okay?
Bits.
Right, so we have created from bits of test tube muscle tissue. Anybody in the class know what it means, bits? What are bits?
Small pieces.
Exactly. Bits
Yes.
are small pieces, small pieces. Okay, so it's created from bits or small pieces of test tube muscle tissue. Okay? Any other questions?
No.
Okay, excellent. Let's go next to Sam. Would you read the next one for us?
Sure. There are innumerable environmental benefits to eating lab-grown meat instead of meat from live animals. In one 2011 study, researchers found that the environmental impact of in vitro meat production is dramatically lower than the conventionally produced meat.
Okay, great. Just this word right here. There are innumerable. Innumerable.
Innumerable.
Okay, great. Everything else was fine. So what is this paragraph saying?
I think it's the point of view of the Greenpeace organization.
Yeah. Can you say one more time?
Yeah, for example, let's say the organization of animal rights, they don't like that animals should be butchered. They don't agree with that. So we should grow our own meat in the labs, so we don't have to kill any more animals.
Yeah, that's another way of looking at it. It's not exactly maybe the point that they're making in this case. They're not saying that we shouldn't kill animals. What are they saying the benefit is in this case?
What is the meaning of vitro?
This one right here, in vitro.
Mm-hmm.
That's another way of saying, like we said, test tube meat. This is another way of saying that. In vitro meat, meaning it's produced in a lab.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay, so they're saying there are innumerable environmental benefits. So here we're pointing at one of the reasons why this might be a good idea, because of the environmental benefits to eating this lab-grown meat as opposed to meat from live animals. Okay, so what do you think some of the environmental benefits would be? How do you think this could improve the environment by eating this kind of meat?
I don't know.
Less pollution from the animals.
Right, we could have less pollution from the animals. What else?
But animals don't cause pollution.
No, they cause some kind of pollution. I don't remember now, but they cause.
The kind of pollution that they cause, and it's in the next paragraph, would be the methane gas. Methane gas is what animals sometimes release, and it is not so great for the environment. So that might be a problem. Okay, how else could this improve the environment? Think about what it takes maybe to raise cows and to slaughter them. How
Like
could
save more crops? I mean, like wheat and.
Right, so we don't have to feed the cows. We're saving more things that they eat, like wheat. Okay, good point. So let's go to the next one. It kind of explains some of the other things. And Ali, would you read the next one for us?
Okay. That's because Cultured meat sidesteps all of the greenhouse gas emissions associated with raising livestock, converting forests to grasslands, managing the cows, dealing with methane emissions, and so on.
Okay, great. Good pronunciation. So this is, again, telling us a little bit more about how raising livestock, meaning cattle in this case, could kind of pollute the environment. So the first thing it says is converting forests to grasslands. So you can't keep cows in forests. You have to cut down all the trees and plant grass so that they can stay there. So that takes a lot of energy, a lot of fuel, and of course you're destroying the forests. So that might be bad for the environment. You have to manage the cows, so you have to feed them and take care of them, and then of course dealing with the methane emissions.
And so on.
And so on. What's the and so on?
Something else, but they didn't mention. So
Right.
we have many pollution problems.
Right. So they're saying this isn't it. This is just a few of the things that cause pollution with raising these cattle.
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay. Any questions here? Or comments? This is something that I didn't really think about before when I was reading this article. I didn't think about how the environment was impacted by eating meat. So it's interesting to see. Maybe they need to find a new solution that's better for the environment. Okay, let's go next to Ermila. Would you read this next section?
Yeah. The price of cultured meat, however, is completely unsustainable, at least for now. The New York Times recently spoke to Dr. Mark Post, a researcher at Maastricht University in the Netherlands, about his work creating the first cultured hamburger.
Okay,
Dr.
great. Would you like to read the next one? You can if you want.
Do I continue?
You can if you want.
Okay. Dr. Post, who knows as much about the subject as anybody, has repeatedly postponed the hamburger Cookoff, which was originally expected to take place in November. His burger consists of about 20,000 thin strips of cultured muscle tissue.
Okay, excellent. So if we look at that first paragraph, we'll see one of the things that all of you mentioned, the most obvious problem with this new kind of meat is that the price is too high. The price is completely unsustainable. And even if a lot of that money went to the research, it still costs a lot of money to produce these hamburgers for now. And as you can see in the next paragraph, it consists of about 20,000 thin strips of this muscle tissue. So it's very difficult to put together as of now.
Yeah, but all innovations, all new technologies, they cost a lot from the beginning. But after they start to produce in mass, the price go down. So
Exactly.
when they invested this money, $325,000, they with this perspective that after 10 years they can produce in mass and they would sell this meat to poor countries and they will feed them with this meat and they would make a lot of money.
Exactly. And like you can see in the first paragraph, it says it's completely unsustainable for now. So hopefully in the future, it's going to be a sustainable process. Okay, perfect. Any questions or comments?
Can I ask
Sure.
Cookoff meaning, please?
Cookoff?
Yes.
Right, so he repeatedly postponed the hamburger cook-off. So the cook-off is this event where somebody is going to eat this expensive hamburger. Okay, we see cook-off a lot of times. It's kind of like a barbecue.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. So this hamburger cook-off is this place or this event in London where they're going to eat this burger. So somebody's going to eat this burger. I don't know who. Okay.
We'll find a man.
Sorry?
They will find a man, a lucky man, who will do this first.
Right, right. I wonder how they're going to choose who gets to eat this hamburger.
Some kind of lottery, maybe.
Well, do you think that he's a lucky man or he's an unfortunate man?
Yeah, of course, lucky. Because before this, they tested on the mice, on other kind of animals. So, for sure, that person would not have any problems, health problems.
Maybe. I wouldn't volunteer to eat it first. I would let somebody else eat it.
But if they would pay you $100,000,
okay, then I would eat it.
I would eat for $100. Just kidding.
Let's see what Dr. Post says next. Igor, would you read it?
Yeah. By the way, I screened the article to the end, and I didn't find for what goes with money, where they go. So they didn't specify in the article, and I in Google and search, and I didn't find about that. So
about where exactly the money went?
Yeah, exactly. For what? They only write that $325,000 hamburger. Only this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and money are from donor, some kind of donor.
Yeah, that's what it says, an anonymous donor. But we'll have to try and find out where all this money was spent, how exactly they spent this money. Okay.
This article is not written, I think. I didn't find
Right, it's not. I don't think it's written in the article, but maybe we can see if we can find it later on.
Very interesting article. They talk about this whole article, but in the end, I do not know where the money exactly goes. I only can suppose from my perspective of view.
Right. So we'll have to try and figure it out. But if you would read for us the next paragraph.
Yeah, Dr. Post, who has conducted some informal taste tests, said that even without any fat, the tissue tastes reasonably good. For the London event, he plans to add only salt and pepper. Pepper.
Okay, great. Good pronunciation. So this is Dr. Post, the guy who is in charge of it, and he says it tastes reasonably good. So I don't know how good that is.
So you see, they tried this meat before to give to someone to eat.
Mm-hmm. Right. But I don't know. I think the doctor who made it is a little bit biased. Of course, he's gonna say it tastes good.
Maybe.
Okay. Any questions here? It's okay.
What is strips?
Let me see. Where is it?
20,000 thin strips.
Oh, strips. So a strip is kind of like a long piece of something.
Okay.
So they were layering these strips, or kind of these long pieces of meat, on top of each other to make this burger.
I have an idea of how to explain strips.
Okay, go ahead, Ermilo.
Okay, Igor, have you ever eat the French fries?
I do not know what is that. Maybe I ate, but I do not know.
You don't know French fried?
Yeah, I do not know.
It is a potato cut
In
in
McDonald's.
strips.
You mean,
Yes.
Ah, okay, I ate.
These potatoes are cut or sliced in strips.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now
Right.
you understand what this means, strips.
Yeah, I understood from Audrey's explanation. So this is kind of do not need. It's
Okay.
surplus your explanation.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, good. At least you have 100% clarity in what strips are, right? Okay. So let's go to the next one. And Sam, would you read it for us?
Sure. But meat, from here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the meat is produced with materials including fetal calf serum used as medium to watch grow the cells that eventually would have to be replaced by similar materials of non-animal origin. And the burger was created at a nominal cost, €250,000, or about $325,000, provided by the donor, who so far has remained anonymous.
Okay, great. Just one pronunciation correction. This word right here should be fetal. Fetal. Okay. And what does that mean? Fetal calf serum. Fetal calf. What is that?
No idea.
Anybody have any ideas? Let's start with the word calf. What is a calf?
An animal
Right, it's an animal. What kind of animal?
like cow,
Son of the cow.
Okay, it's a cow. What kind of cow?
male,
It is a cow that it is not born, not yet.
A calf, it can be born. A calf is a baby cow.
A baby cow?
Right, or a young cow.
yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And Ermilo, though, you're right about a cow that hasn't been born when we say fetal. Okay? A fetal calf is a calf that has not been born. Okay? So a calf is a baby cow, and if we say a fetal calf, it's a cow that has not been born yet. So he's in the stomach of the mother cow. Okay, so one of the materials they used to make this meat was fetal calf serum. So some kind of serum or material from a fetal calf, a cow that has not been born yet. Okay, and that you can see is a medium in which to grow the cells. So that's how they, or that's where they grew the cells to make this hamburger. Okay, what do you think about using this specific material to make this meat? Fetal calf serum.
What is a serum again?
Serum is just kind of a material, another word for a material.
Okay.
Okay, so usually it's like a liquid material. So they're growing these cells in some kind of liquid material from cows that haven't been born already to make this meat. Any comments or questions about that?
I don't know. This doesn't. I prefer to eat this hamburger without knowing the origin.
Right. I agree, because this kind of is, this is a good time to use the word creepy, right? This is a very creepy way to eat meat, I think.
Well, when you say about serum, it is a liquid.
Yeah, it's typically like a liquid. It might be like a gel material. Okay, so they're using this kind of material to make this. And I agree, I would prefer not to know how they made this burger before I ate it.
Ignorance is a bliss.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I don't know this. I can imagine this like a bag that is made up of meat, and it is connected to a serum, and they're feeding it and putting it some temperature, and maybe if you touch it, it will just shake.
So you're kind of grossed out, Sam, or disgusted.
Yeah, sounds like these horror movies.
Yeah, I prefer not to eat it now. Would you still eat it, Igor, for $100?
No, I said that this is joke for $100. Was as a joke that someone would eat for $100,000, but I for $100. This was kind of joke.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yes, the pronunciation of these three words together. Fetal calf?
Which one? Right, fetal calf serum.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Let's go to the next one. And let's see. Ali, would you read it for us?
Okay, continue. I can see the text, sorry.
Oh, you can't see it? Can you see it on your own screen?
Okay. Once science figure out how to make the cultured meat production process more efficient, Testtube meat may end up being cheaper than the conventionally produced stuff. You don't have to feed and care for a whole cow. You just need to deal with the pieces that people want to eat.
Okay, great. Just this word right here should be process. Okay?
Process. Okay.
Great. Everything else was great. And again, once scientists try to or figure out a way to make this more efficient, it might be cheaper than actual meat or real meat. So that could be an advantage.
Will be for sure cheaper, because how they would start to sell this meat, what advantages they would have. The main advantage, I think, this will be.
Yeah. So we do have the environmental advantages that we talked about, but I think you're right that the main advantage is the cost, and we want to make this cheaper.
Maybe for a country, for a government, for people who are in power, this advantage that environmental friendly would be advantage really. But for consumer, for average consumer, for who buy in supermarkets person, would be this kind of advantage, because usually people do not care when they buy products. Are they environmentally friendly or not?
Right. So a lot of times the consumer, they don't really think about that. They just buy the cheapest thing.
Yeah, I mean average consumer. So the most, maybe not all people, but the most of the people, people.
Okay, very good. Any other comments or questions in this section?
Well, when you say culture meat, can we use the word cultivated?
Yeah, you could say cultivated. So you're cultivating or culturing the meat,
Okay.
whichever you like.
Cultivated meat or cultured meat is the same.
Right. Okay, good question. Any other questions or comments? Okay, let's go to the next section. Ermila, would you read it for us?
But that's a long way off. More than middle. A Peter Thiel-backed startup that is also working on test-tube meat decided that the cultured meat production process is too nascent to focus on right now. Instead, the company, uh, I lost the screen. Okay, yeah, let me find it. The company is first working on test tube leather. The idea struck us that if we can make medical grade tissues that are good enough for drug companies, good enough for patients, then certainly we can find other applications for tissue engineering. Co-founder and CEO Andras Forgax explained in an interview with Coexist, even the cultured leather won't be ready for large-scale production for 5 years. Once cultured meat makes it into production, brands will have to deal with the ick factor. But if
Okay, let's stop right there for a second, just so we can make sure and ask any questions, okay? And then we'll continue.
Okay.
Okay, so let's look at the first paragraph that we looked at. Again, it says, but that's a long way off, meaning there's a lot of time before we can make these meats cost effective. And we have this word right here, nascent. What does it mean? The production process is too nascent.
Complicated?
Not complicated.
Sophisticated is the same as complicated.
Any ideas? I'm thinking about the Spanish, and I don't know if it's similar in other language, but think about the Spanish verb nacer.
Es naciente en español.
So what do you think it would mean?
Naciente is something that is beginning.
Exactly. So we have a similar stem here. It's too nascent, meaning it's too new. It's too in the beginning to focus on right now. Okay? So this is a very new concept in the beginning. Okay, so it says instead the company is first working on test tube leather. So if we're producing these things in test tubes or in laboratories, we might use them for other applications like creating leather. Okay, any questions there? And what do you think about producing test tube leather? Maybe it's a little bit less creepy or less strange than producing meat, I think.
What do you mean?
Maybe creating something that you don't have to eat. Like leather you can put on your purses, you can put on your shoes. You don't have to eat it. So I think it makes me a little bit more comfortable to have something like leather produced in a lab than something like meat that you eat.
Oh, you mean that to do not eat, but to use in our ways?
Right, exactly. Okay, so that's what they're talking about. That's what the company is talking about, making leather. Okay, and then in the next section it says, even this cultured leather won't be ready for another 5 years. So there's even more time to wait on this leather. Okay, any other questions from either of these paragraphs? Okay, let's go to the next section. And it's Igor, would you read it for us?
Once cultured meat makes it into production, brands will have to deal with the ICK factor. But if beef prices continue to rise, and it looks like they will, consumers may quickly get over their squeamishness. Squeamishness. How to read this word?
This one is squeamishness.
Squeamishness.
Okay, great. So let's first think about that word. What is squeamishness? What does it mean to be squeamish? Does anybody know?
No.
So for example, I'm squeamish because I don't like to see blood a lot. I don't like to see needles or surgeries.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so squeamish could be when you get sick to your stomach for something kind of gross or disgusting. Okay, and it's very similar to, we see this right here, and it should be the ick factor, not ICK, but we just say ick.
Okay, and what is the meaning?
Okay, so ick is something that sometimes people say when they're disgusted. So the ick factor would be something that's disgusting. So brands will have to deal with the ick factor because people are going to initially be disgusted by this idea of meat grown in labs. But once people accept that this is something that happens, they might be a little bit more comfortable with eating it.
Yeah, here is written that they predict that prices for meat will rise, so that's why consumers will eat this artificial meat.
Right. So initially they're not going to eat it because it's disgusting, but they'll get over it when they know they can save money by eating it.
Yeah. As I said,
Okay.
meat will be sold in poor countries because
yeah.
big companies and the government sell food that is not very quality to countries that are poor.
Right, yeah. So this is definitely something that you might see in the future in poor countries. Okay, and what do you think about the likelihood that everybody in poor countries and maybe in wealthier countries too might be eating this meat in the next couple years? Do you think it's very likely?
What is likelihood?
Likelihood meaning how possible it will be or how likely it will be that something will happen.
Yeah, I think it's very likely. It's correct to say it's very likely to happen?
Very likely.
Yeah, it's very likely because I think this is a business and will be companies that they will start with business. So they will go very how we can say that, very aggressively in the market. So they will start to promote, is correct, or they will start to...
You mean like to promote?
Yeah, to promote this meat in some way. They will say that is better than that meat, maybe that is environmentally friendly, and other qualities they will find and they will promote, so it will be a very profitable business in the future.
Okay, yeah. So let's see. Of course, we're at the end of the article. Let's see, Ali, what do you think about the article in total?
Which article? Sorry.
The whole thing that we just read. What is your opinion on this idea?
Sorry, I couldn't listen your last sentences. My wife came.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry.
So think about everything that we talked about the advantages to this processed or cultured meat. Do you think that it is a positive thing, a good idea?
No, it's very bad for me because I want to. Usually, I want to eat something natural, These things makes the people brings the people sickness in the later. So I don't accept this situation.
Okay, yeah, and let's see, Armila, what do you think?
Well, this is very strange because we never imagined about this, and that's all.
Okay, okay, yeah, so maybe it's something strange that you haven't thought about too much. But I think there are two sides. You can see it as being something very strange and maybe unhealthy, and also something that might be beneficial, either cost-wise or environmentally. So,
There's a word here. What does mean ick factor?
right, the ick factor is referring to how society and people are going to initially be disgusted by this idea. So it's kind of something that initially people will feel disgusted. They won't want to eat it.
Does ick mean something?
Ick is like a word that sometimes we say if we think something's gross or disgusting. So if I told you about this burger, you might say ick, that's gross, or ick, that's disgusting. It's a word that we use sometimes to express disgust. Okay?
Not exactly.
It's just a word that we use sometimes when we are disgusted or we feel like something is nasty or gross.
So the word you use when you are discussing something, you use ick.
Right, if we think something's disgusting. Okay?
Okay. I think I understood a little bit.
Okay, very good. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you all for participating, for reading, and I hope you both improved your English and learned a little bit more about this strange topic. I hope to.
I want to know where money. I want to know where money goes.
Oh yes, where the money goes.
Yeah, this is the idea. They wrote hamburger for $325,000 for. So I want to know exactly.
Right, and I was looking at it. I couldn't find anything.
I couldn't find either. I all lesson I stayed on Google and wrote these keywords, and I read many articles. I didn't find for research. I found only.
Yeah.
Research. 3 years this research was conducted.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a mystery. We'll never know exactly where the money went.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you again for expressing your opinions and asking some really good questions. I hope to see you all soon, and take care, okay?